All right, guys, welcome back to the Pocket Mads channel. It's Maddie here, and the trailer for the upcoming set coming to Pokemon Pocket B4 Ruler of the Skies has been officially announced. The teaser video came out today, and with it, a bunch of incredible new cards were showed. So we're going to break it all down in today's video. We're going to talk about these new cards. We're going to talk about whether I think these new cards are going to be strong in the metagame, what the new meta is going to look like, my opinions, my thoughts, everything. I'm going to be talking about them here in today's video. I am so excited. The set is finally here. Not only that, but a couple of really interesting game updates have also been announced. So we're going to talk about it all in today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's dive right into it. All right, we're just doing it. We're just going to get right into it, guys. I'm super excited. I've been looking forward to this set for a very long time, since they, officially teased it a while back. But here we go. Ruler of the Skies. It's set to release on July 30th. However, it might be the 29th for some people around the world. The time zone thing can be a little bit interesting. We'll look into it a little bit more. But this is going to be a full expansion. This is B4. It's not a mini set. And while it will be a single booster pack, it is going to include basically double the amount of cards that the previous couple of mini sets have included. And of course, the frontrunner is Mega Rayquaza, which they initially, teased a while back and have officially, showcased here today. Now, I was a little bit disappointed because in the teaser, it did seem like the card had an ability. Like, I think everybody was like, oh, there's an ability on this new Mega Pokemon, and that was kind of a big deal. I thought as much that was going to be the case, but there's no ability, so maybe they just had a weird, placeholder, Mega Rayquaza from the official TCG that they were using for that teaser. I don't really know. But anyway, this is it. This is the cards. Now, before we get into the Pokemon and whatnot, because there's a lot of stuff that they announced, I am going to talk about the trainer cards first. And the reason I do this is because it allows us to have a bit more context as it pertains to the other cards that we're going to be talking about. So let's do that. Let's dive right into it. The first one is going to be Skyla. That's right, guys, Skyla. So switch your active Stage 1 Pokemon with one of your benched Pokemon. This is a supporter card. Now, this is interesting, right? So basically, it's a double pivot mechanism for your active Stage 1 Pokemon. There are some scenarios where, you can just switch it out. And if you're playing a Stage 1 deck, this might be a pretty useful card. But for me, this is a card that's probably meant to be paired with the new Swanna EX, which I do think makes a lot of sense. But, it's going to have some general purpose. Skyla, of course, does use a Swan. I believe this is a Gen 5 gym leader. I definitely think it is. It's like the 4th or 5th gym. Shout out to Gen 5, the best generation. But Skyla, in my mind, is meant to be paired here with Swanna. This is a new EX card, a non-mega, colorless, 150 HP, weak to lightning, retreat cost of 2, and it's got Jet Wing. So for 3 colorless, it does 140, and during your next turn, this Pokemon can't attack. Now, you can get around that negative effect by, of course, double pivoting, which I assume is the entire concept here with Skyla, right? So you might be playing Swanna because it is a colorless Pokemon. You might be playing it with some baby Pokemon so that you can effectively just sort of play like Turbo Swanna, right? Which is honestly not that bad. We do have the new Elegant Cape to bring this up to 180 HP, and it's a colorless Pokemon, which is pretty decent. 3 colorless isn't that bad. Again, you can turbo to it with Pichu, Mantike, or Magby. Now, again, the way you get around this negative effect is that you attack for 140, by the way, which is a really decent amount of damage. 140 is a great number. You can hit for 140, and then, on your next turn, since you wouldn't be able to attack, you would then play your Skyla. You would switch, not retreat, you would switch your Swanna with one of your benched Pokemon, that being, of course, either maybe Mantike or, Pichu or Magby or any other baby Pokemon that you might be playing with Swanna. And that Pokemon has free retreat. Now, it doesn't have to be a baby Pokemon, but any free retreat Pokemon. And then, of course, you're able to then retreat that free retreat Pokemon, effectively double pivoting, bringing Swanna EX from the active to the bench, back to the active, wiping off that negative condition, and being able to attack basically every other turn or every turn with Swanna, right? Which is a really big deal. I don't think this is going to be like the craziest card in the game, but to me, that's the core concept here with Swanna, the double pivot, reset, 140, colorless turbo engine. It's really not a bad card. I don't know if this will be like the most incredible thing in the game, but it certainly isn't going to be that bad. We've got a ton of Stage 1 support, so maybe you do play this with some other Stage 1 strategies. Elegant Cape is an example. We have, turbo, versions with baby Pokemon, right? To accelerate the energy to Swanna. So that's, to me, what's going on there with that combo, right? It's going to be Swanna EX and Skyla. That, to me, those cards are kind of meant to be paired together. Maybe something else comes out in this set. I also should give a disclaimer because I haven't done this yet, but they've only given us like 10 cards, right? So whenever a new set comes out, there's going to be over 100 cards in this set, and it's really easy to make some early assumptions about the quality of some of these cards or the meta viability of them. And while, yes, you definitely can discertain some, information regarding these cards that we've given or been given, you're going to have to wait for the entire set to come out to accurately judge things, right? So I just want to tell people that because there's always an initial reaction of, oh, these cards are really, really strong, or, the opposite, or these cards really aren't that strong. And to be honest, we just won't know until the full set comes out and we start building decks and we start testing, okay? So that's the reality here. We can, make some presumptions. We can kind of, do some educated guessing, but at the end of the day, we're going to have to wait. So Swanna EX and Skyla is pretty cool. I like that a lot. However, let's get into Wally. Wally is a new supporter card, and this card is a huge deal. This is a massive deal here for Pokemon Pocket. This card is crazy. This is a supporter card, and it reads, take a colorless energy from your energy zone and attach it to one of your Stage 2 Pokemon. Now, the way this works is that you can effectively attach this colorless energy to any Stage 2 Pokemon. It doesn't have to be a Mega, it doesn't have to be an EX, it's just any Stage 2 Pokemon. Now, there are some Stage 2 Pokemon that are pretty decent with colorless energy in their attack cost. In fact, they are releasing 2 new Stage 2 Megas that do have colorless energy in their attack cost, which we will talk about. But this is going to work for anything currently existing in the game that's a Stage 2 Pokemon with colorless energy in their attack cost. And that, to me, is the main reason why you would play Wally. Theoretically, all Pokemon do have colorless energy in their retreat cost. So, if you were playing a Stage 2 deck, you could, you could just play Wally to kind of get that extra energy to retreat. There's other applications for this. Keep in mind, this is a colorless energy. So there's some cards that do this, and this might be confusing to some players, but effectively there's no way to generate colorless energy from your, your energy zone just sort of naturally, right? You need to have a colored energy in your deck list. But some cards do allow you to generate colorless energy from your energy zone. It's a relatively new thing in Pokemon Pocket. And again, it's going to satisfy the colorless energy in whatever cost that we're talking about. So I think Wally is an incredible card. I mean, quite frankly, any Stage 2 deck that maybe has 2 colored energy and a colorless energy, this is going to be a massive deal here. There's going to be so many applications for Wally. Think about this as literally just playing an extra energy in your deck. Like, you can play 2. In fact, you can play an 18-card deck with 2 of those cards being energy cards. Now, it is your supporter for the turn, but an additional energy is crazy always. And this is a supporter card that does it with really, no downsides other than the fact that it has to be to Stage 2 Pokemon. But this is a really big deal. You're going to be shocked how many Pokemon are able to utilize Wally. I don't know if any of those will be top tier meta strategies, but I'm just telling you right now that this card is an incredible effect. This is one of the stronger supporter cards in the game. Now, it's more specific, and I think that supporter cards that are really strong but are conditionalized and specific to particular strategies and particular decks, I think is good for the game, right? So it's a way to kind of buff things without buffing everything all at once, right? So this is a really, really interesting card. We'll take a look at this later. I'm going to be doing a bunch of videos kind of in this upcoming week before the set releases, basically like talking about new strategies and new deck ideas, because things like Wally have a million different applications, as well as the new Dragonair, which we will cover in just a minute. So look forward to a bunch of preemptive deck lists and theory crafting in the upcoming days. This is going to be a crazy season. Wally's a crazy card. But lastly here, in terms of the trainer card, the third trainer card that they revealed, and it is a new stadium. Now, keep in mind, they only showed us 3 trainers. We're probably going to get 2 or 3 more, maybe an additional stadium, maybe some tool cards, maybe some item cards, right? They're going to give us a bunch more in the set. This is all we have currently right now. However, this is a big deal, okay? This, to me, is one of the more definitive things that we've ever gotten in any set. This, to me, is a massive deal. It's what a lot of people have been asking for a very, very long time. And I'm talking about Dragon support. I'm talking multi-energy, multi-type energy support in Pokemon Pocket. We're finally getting it. Let's take a look here at Rainbow Cave. It is a stadium card, and it reads, once during each player's turn, that player may discard the energy that has been generated in their energy zone. And if they do, the next energy is produced. So again, the way that energy works in Pokemon Pocket is you have the energy in your zone, and then the game will show you what the next energy in your zone will be. Now, one of the core fundamental concepts of Pokemon Pocket are that Dragon-type Pokemon always, or not always, but almost always have 2 different types of energy in their attack costs. And this makes it so that it's harder to set up Dragon Pokemon. There's a reason why Dragon Pokemon are typically never meta viable, is because even if they're strong, there's an inherent downside and inconsistency of needing 2 different energy types, and you never know which of those energy types are going to be generated in your zone. Rainbow Cave is helping with that. It's not going to guarantee it, but it is helping with it, right? So let's just say that you're playing a Dragon-type Pokemon with 2 different energies and their attack cost, right? And it's just a 2 energy attack cost. I think Garchomp might be an example of this. Not Garchomp EX, but the non-EX Garchomp. Just any dragon, right? Think about this. Let's just say your energy zone is going to produce you, 2 water energies and then a fire. And you're like, okay, well, I need a water and a fire, right? So the odds are that it's actually somewhat unlikely that you're going to be getting one of each in the first 2 turns. But what Rainbow Cave does, it allows you to kind of skip an energy, just discard it, which has applications in its own right, which we'll talk about, but it allows you to kind of move forward and use that next energy in your energy zone if you want to, which is going to add a lot of extra consistency to virtually every single Dragon-type deck and every single Dragon-type Pokemon in the game. This is a really, really nice, just a really, really great stadium, quite frankly. Now, this also has other applications, right? This is a stadium you can play in any deck and any type of strategy that pulls cards out of the discard pile, fundamentally energy. Not cards, but energy. There are some examples of things that do that. The number 1 example is going to be Flame Patch. That's right. So Rainbow Cave is now going to be able to be comboed with a Flame Patch to effectively just turbo. It's a 2-card combo that doesn't require any Pokemon to turbo an additional fire energy to your fire Pokemon, right? Like, let's say you're only playing fire energies. You can just discard one of them, generate a new fire energy, attach that new one, and then play Flame Patch and put that one you just discarded on your active. And all of a sudden it's turn 1 and you have 2 fire energies on your Pokemon. This is a really big deal. This is going to be a massive deal for really aggressive fire type strategies. Maybe like a basic fire Pokemon that has a strong attack, but 2 energies in its energy zone, right? Or in its attack cost rather. So now you're able to play Flame Patch, Rainbow Cave, and just sort of go like balls to the wall. Like just be like literally like double energy turn 1 going second is going to be crazy. So the potential here for Rainbow Cave is incredible. This is great dragon type support, but it's not only for dragon Pokemon. So there's going to be other applications, I'm sure, where Rainbow Cave is relevant. I can't remember off the top of my head if there's any other interactions in Pokemon Pocket right now that take energies out of the discard pile. There probably is. I just don't necessarily remember what those might be. However, let's talk about Dragon-type Pokemon specifically, because this isn't the only support card that Dragon Pokemon are getting. And Rainbow Cave is certainly meant to be paired with the new Dragonair. So let's take a look at Dragonair. Again, guys, this is crazy. Dragon-type support, finally. Multi-energy support. Finally, Dragonair, this is a new Dragonair, and it's got the ability Dragon's Blessing. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon is on your bench, you may attach an energy from your discard pile to your active dragon Pokemon. All right, so it's all kind of coming together immediately, right? So we can cycle through energies in our energy zone with Rainbow Cave, and if you're playing a dragon type deck, you can run Dragonair and effectively double up on those energies every single turn, and that's per Dragonair. This ability will stack. The wording on this means that you can have double Dragonair on your bench and effectively attach 3 energies in 1 turn, which is crazy. You just need the energy in your discard pile. But this is also a really big deal for those dragon decks. So not only is Rainbow Cave allowing us to be more consistent with the energy types being generated out of our energy zone, which is a really big deal for those multi-energy dragon type Pokemon, but now we're able to just utilize all of the energies. So now it's not only just more consistent in terms of the energy types, but now you're getting double the energy, which is absolutely incredible. This is going to be such a fun engine, such a strong engine for virtually any dragon type deck and any dragon type Pokemon in the entire game. Now, Dragonair doesn't have a weakness, and that's the upside of Dragon Pokemon. Doesn't have a weakness. It does have a retreat cost of 2 and only 80 HP, so you're going to want to get your protective ponchos out. You're going to want to keep your Dragonair safe on the bench from getting targeted because they are a bit frail. But trust me, Dragonair Rainbow Cave is going to be a massive buff to really any Dragon-type Pokemon in the entire game, and there's a lot. I mean, it could be Dragonite, could be the new Mega Rayquaza, which we will be talking about soon, could be Flygon. There's so many other Dragon-type Pokemon that this will have applications for. But either way, this is a massive deal. It took us so long. We're finally here. We have real dragon type support in Pokemon Pocket and multi-energy support. It's not really something I ever thought we would get, but we did get it, and it is coming here in B4. In just a week, such a big change. That alone, the cards that we've talked about so far in this video alone are going to be a massive deal for the future implications of the metagame. And I think things like this are really fun because they bring a lot of old strategies potentially right up into the forefront of the metagame, which is really going to shake things up tremendously on top of all of the new stuff and all of the new Pokemon coming out. But anyway, let's now talk about some of the Pokemon. Now that we've talked about, of course, the engines, the supporter cards, the trainer cards, things like that. Let's talk about the new Pokemon coming. They did highlight 3 new Pokemon here that were sort of just flavored Pokemon before we get to the 3 new Megas, which is going to be, of course, what a lot of people are interested in, but I'll put timestamps down below. The first one's going to be Absol. Now, welcome back, Skarmory. If you guys remember, Skarmory was a card that came out a long time ago that was effectively this, but Steel type. So, single energy on a basic 70 HP Pokemon, retreat cost of 1, does 20 damage, but if you have a tool attached, you deal 30 more damage. Now, this is not bad. It's a single energy, 50 damage attack. This will be useful. These types of Pokemon are pretty good. It really just comes down to whether or not you have the backline dark type deck that you're going to be playing Absol with. And Leap over Absol it's interesting to me that Absol's such a popular Pokemon because, like, theoretically you could just play a deck with, you know, 4 or 3 different types of Absol that are all pretty relevant. We have Leap over Absol, now we have Enhanced Blade Absol, so you have kind of lead-off options. We also have Mega Absol EX, which is pretty funny. But yeah, so, you know, this is a card that is kind of the partner to Leap over Absol. You either deal 30 to a bench Pokemon, or technically you could deal 50 to the active, and those are both really strong Pokemon. And again, I think there might be another Pokemon that does this for a different type, but I always think back to Skarmory from, like, one of the earlier sets, which gives you the ability to do this exact same thing, but for a Steel type, and that's a pretty good card, and it's seen play in the past. So, new Absol, pretty cool. We're also getting a new Psyduck with Migraine. Flip a coin. If heads, your opponent's active Pokemon is now confused, and if tails, this Pokemon is now confused. Again, I don't know. They show us cards sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, I love the art here. I love Psyduck. It's a fun card. And next up is going to be Genesect. Now, this is a full art that they highlighted. An interesting card, 100 HP basic metal type Pokemon, retreat cost of 1, 70 damage for 2 metal energy, and then during your next turn, this Pokemon can't attack. So this is not a card to me that at first glance is like super good, but I would not be surprised if, like, this is something that was meant to be paired with something else that's coming out in this set, right? Genesect is a pretty popular Pokemon. It is a legendary Pokemon. It's a basic with 100 HP. There is a world where Genesect, this card particularly, is paired with other things, and it's a somewhat, I guess, decent, like, lead-off option in Steel-type decks. I don't know. This is a card we have zero context about. Given the current state of the metagame and the cards we know of currently, like, this is not a card you would ever play. But, you know, we don't know. You know, there could be some metal type acceleration coming. There could be, you know, a card that specifically works with Genesect. We have no idea. We're just going to have to wait and see. But this is not a bad card. It's not a card that I'll probably see play unless something else comes out with it. And it is a full art, which makes me think that there might be, but who knows? There's Genesect. So those are kind of the 3, like, kind of throwaway, like, flavor Pokemon that they kind of threw in to the trailer. But now let's get into the good stuff, and let's talk about the Megas. We're doing this in, like, reverse order, and we're going to talk about Mega Rayquaza last. So 3 Mega Pokemon were highlighted. Now, keep in mind, the 3 Megas are EX cards, and then Swanna EX is also an EX card, and that's 4 total. There's probably going to be, what, like 6, 7 EX, 6 or 7 EX cards coming out in this set. We don't know what the rest of them are yet, but this is not going to be all of them, right? Because this is a full expansion. So we'll have to just kind of wait and see. But 3 Megas were highlighted. The first one here is Mega Metagross. Now, I think all of these Megas are quite strong, and I'm going to explain my thoughts about these Megas because I think they're all really, really good. But this one is Mega Metagross, okay? It's a Steel type Stage 2 Mega Pokemon. 230 HP, retreat cost of 3, which is high, but keep in mind, we get access to Heavy Helmet. Okay, Metagross is going to be able to use Metal Core Barrier, Steel Apron, and Heavy Helmet. So this thing is going to be very tanky. Not only that, it's a Stage 2 Pokemon, so you can play Lily, and you can still play Lucky Ice Pop. So good luck KOing Metagross. It's going to be quite an interesting time. Now, the attack here is Gatling Slug for 3 colorless energy. 3 colorless energy, does 100 damage, and it does 10 more for each metal energy attached to this Pokemon. So at first glance, Mega Metagross to me is definitely more of a sustain, kind of a tank type of card, right? 230 HP, Stage 2, you get access to Lily, you get Heavy Helmet, you get Metal Core Barrier, you get all of that. So it's going to be really difficult to KO Metagross. Now, the attack is very interesting to me. One, for a couple of reasons, right? You're going to be able to turbo 2 Mega Metagross if you wanted to, because it does have colorless energy in its attack cost. So you could play any of the baby Pokemon if you wanted to generate additional energies, but keep in mind, you can also play Wally, which will generate colorless energy to Metagross. Now, as it stands right now, the only card we have to generate metal energies is Orthworm, so you could play Orthworm Metagross to stack metal energies onto it, because even though the attack cost is 3 colorless energy, you're not going to increase the damage unless you have Steel energy attached. So you're always going to be playing Steel energy or metal energy in your energy zone, but when it comes to additional energy acceleration onto Metagross, we don't really have any, like, turboing options that are Steel energy, but that might be fine. Because keep in mind, one attachment of a steel energy and then 2 colorless or 2 whatever energies means that Metagross is going to be able to attack on turn 2 for 110 damage, which isn't going to KO a lot of Pokemon. But the concept of Metagross, in my opinion, is to be a sustained deck and then 2-hit KO things. And it will do that very, very effectively, right? You do 110 and then you do 120. That's 230 HP, and you're going to be 2-hit KOing virtually every Pokemon in the entire game. And it's going to be very difficult to KO Metagross because, again, like of all of those things that I mentioned. So we do have Orthworm, we do have Pichu, Magby, and Mantike. We do have, of course, the new Wally card. So there's going to be a lot of ways to get this thing piled up with energy. It's going to be very, very annoying. And I actually think this card has a ton of potential. I think a lot of people take a look at Pokemon and they think, oh, it doesn't deal that much damage. It's not that good. So Metagross is going to be really good at certain things, but it will struggle at other things, right? So keep in mind those basic Pokemon decks or those stage 1 non-mega decks that are playing 140, 150 HP Pokemon. It's going to be tough because you're not going to be 1-hit KOing those Pokemon, but you're also going to be 2-hit KOing the stage 2 mega decks that are maxed out in terms of HP capacity, right? So I think into other mega decks, specifically other stage 2 decks, Metagross will be very, very strong, but it might struggle into other basic Pokemon where you kind of wish that you could KO them because, of course, if you do KO them, the game isn't over. You're going to have to KO 2 Pokemon, right? So which means you have to attack like 4 times. So into something like a Suicune or a Zoroark, Metagross might struggle a little bit, but the reason why it might not even struggle is because of all of the sustained factors that I did talk about with Lily, with Metal Core Barrier, with Heavy Helmet. So because of the colorless energy, because of all of the options available to us in the game right now, I actually think Metagross is an incredible card. I think this is a very, very strong card, and I think it's the best Steel-type Pokemon that we have available to us right now. I really don't want to understate how annoying it's going to be to KO Metagross. If you're not playing a deck that hits for like 140 plus, you're just not going to be even able to 2-hit KO this thing. And you might not anyway, to be honest, which is hilarious. Now, again, into things like Charizard EX, you can, that's Charizard EX. Charizard Y is something that, definitely hard counters something like this. Even Blaziken, right? With weakness and burn, like you're probably going to be able to 2-hit KO even through the sustain, but maybe not. I mean, like Metal Core Barrier, Lily, and Ice Pops is going to be so annoying. It's going to be really, really difficult to KO Metagross. I'm really interested. This is a card that could be extremely dangerous. And again, we don't know what other Steel-type Pokemon are coming out in this set. There could be more support. We just don't know. We have no idea. Either way, definitely a ton of potential out of Metagross. Next up is Mega Gallade. I think a lot of people like Mega Gallade. However, keep in mind, we do have Mega Lucario, right? And it's going to be tough to overthrow Mega Lucario as like the best Mega fighting Pokemon. Mega Gallade is a stage 2 Pokemon, and it's not a stage 1, which is inherently a bit of a downside. It does have 220 HP, and it does, again, have 2 colorless energy in its attack cost. So we can turbo to Gallade really, really quickly. It's going to be very easy to get 3 energies on Gallade into Metagross with Wally and baby Pokemon. But keep that in mind, this thing does, for 1 fighting and 2 colorless, Resonating Blade, 100 damage. Plus, if you played a supporter card from your hand during this turn, it does 150 more, or does, 50 more, so 150 for 3. Now, again, whether that's Wally on your second turn, so that you can go turn to 150 with Mega Gallade, we do have Arena of Antiquity to bring that up to 170, or you could just play Red, or you could play, not Red, but Karina. I believe it's called, right? So Karina is plus 30 and then plus 50 again. So all of a sudden, you're able to hit for 180. Everyone plays supporters every turn anyway. You're playing Research, you're playing Copycat, you're playing Karina, you're playing Wally, you're playing Cyrus, you're playing Sabrina. So this condition to me isn't that terrible. I just don't know if this card is in fact better than Lucario. Like that's the only thing to me that is a little bit like, well, maybe. And here's the thing. Like, if you have Wally and you can turbo to some degree to Mega Gallade, because that's the difference. Lucario was only fighting energy, which is an inherent downside. You can't, you can't go faster pace with Lucario, which, is a good thing because it would be crazy. However, Mega Gallade on turn 2 can hit for 150. Right? And Lucario can hit on turn 2, but it can only hit for like 100, right? I think, or something like 90. So it's a lot less strong on turn 2, but on turn 3, it definitely becomes a bit more worth it to play Lucario, right? Because it can just hit for more damage. So it's interesting. To me, this is more of like a kind of a high roll-y version of Lucario. Is really what I'm feeling here. I do think it's better than Mega Lopunny. Mega Lopunny is like extreme high roll for the fighting type. So Mega Gallade feels to me like in between Lucario and Mega Lopunny in terms of fighting type, high roll type of decks. Definitely decent payoff here. Again, Arena of Antiquity Karina means that this is 140. This is going to be 190 damage, which is a big deal. You can Rocky Helmet to this thing, and all of a sudden, it's got a bit more reach. And it's something that we have to keep in mind when reviewing and thinking about these Mega Pokemon Pokemon, or sorry, these fighting type Mega Pokemon moving forward is because they have a toolkit that is just a bit more unique. Now, because you're not playing Lucario, you don't get access to Fighting Coach Lucario. Maybe that's fine. Maybe, you know, who cares? Maybe, right? Yeah, I mean, also, you also got to keep in mind this thing does have 2 colorless, so you could play this with Gardevoir. Maybe there's going to be like a weird support card that allows you to play Gallade and Gardevoir in the same deck. That would be kind of crazy. It would be very, very interesting. But Mega Gallade, there we go. Those are my thoughts. Again, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be hard to overthrow Lucario, but in my opinion, like Wally is the glue here that's kind of bringing me a bit closer into understanding how strong Mega Metagross and Mega Gallade are going to be. This is a massive advantage, guys. I don't think you cannot understate how incredible of a card Wally is. You just can't. This card is so good. You can just play 18 cards in your deck with 2 extra energies, and it's so crazy. Like, that's so strong. Any stage 2 deck with colorless energy and the attack cost is going to be way better than you think. Now, you do still have to kind of play high roll with rare candy, because that's the general concept with stage 2s, is that you want to get them out on turn 2, and you have to have rare candy to do that, other than some scenarios. So Wally is going to basically allow us to not only, get the stage 2 Pokemon out on turn 2, but attack with them, right? Like, it's going to be kind of this weird, high roll, big, like, multi-card combo that's going to feel really, really strong. There's going to be some decks where you're like, okay, here comes the turn 2 rare candy, and then also an additional second energy attachment on turn 2, and all of a sudden I'm getting hit for 150, in turn 2 by a Mega Gallade. You're like, how's that fair? And it's not going to feel very fair, trust me, but it's not going to be that consistent. Also, it's really nice if you go first. So that's the other thing that you got to mention, is that yes, like, you get the turn 2 potential with the high roll, but if you go first, it still kind of just allows you to get back on the energy curve. So this is also really nice going first support. Wally's a really good card. That's all I'm saying. Now, it is specific to colorless energy attackers, but incredibly, incredibly relevant, okay? Very relevant. But next up, and lastly, before we get to some other stuff, we'll talk about the guy himself, the mascot of the set, and that is Mega Rayquaza. Now, a lot of people's initial reactions to Mega Rayquaza have been mixed. This is definitely one of those controversial type of cards, very polarizing. I think Mega Rayquaza is very good. I'll talk about this right now, in fact. This is what we're doing. I think Mega Rayquaza is strong, okay? So let's talk about this. It's a dragon-type basic Pokemon. No weakness, because it's a dragon type, which is a big deal, okay? Whenever you have 180 HP Pokemon, certain breakpoints become a little bit sketchy, right? Now, when you think about this, like, if you're playing Mega Absol or Mega Sableye or Mega Mawile or any other, mega basic Pokemon, they usually have about 170 HP, which means most of the time they're not getting KO'd. But into certain decks that do hit them for weakness, they can get KO'd. So having 180 HP, access to Giant Cape, access to Starting Plains, and no weakness means that you are effectively just not going to get one at KO'd, at least or anytime early in the game, which is a pretty big deal for Mega Rayquaza, which, if you haven't noticed, is actually kind of an aggressive card. But let's talk about this, because I think people are kind of thinking about this maybe the wrong way. It's interesting because there are 2 different ways to play Mega Rayquaza, so let's talk about them. The attack here for 1 fire and 1 lightning energy, so that's the energy types fire and lightning. You discard all fire and lightning energy from this Pokemon, and this attack does 50 damage for each energy you discarded this way. Now, at first glance, this doesn't seem that crazy, right? Like, sure, you're like, okay, maybe turn 2, I can get a fire and a lightning, especially with the new Rainbow Stadium, and then I hit for 100 damage. And you're like, that's not that much damage. But at the end of the day, it's very aggressive, right? Because again, it is a basic. It does only have a 2 energy attack cost. You can play Pichu, you can play Magby, right? So there's a lot of potential here for getting that additional energy under Rayquaza early. But here's the thing for me: people are going to be thinking, how are we going to pile this up with energies to hit for a big attack and then 1 at KO your opponent? I'm going to tell you right now, you're not. That's not the concept here. Now, you could. And I think that there are going to be certain decks that maybe aren't bad at all, which do utilize Mega Rayquaza as a late game attacking option. Maybe it will be strong. Okay, I'm not saying it won't be, but I don't really think that that's what you're supposed to do with Mega Rayquaza, and I'll talk about it in a little bit. But yeah, theoretically, there's ways to do this. Now, the issue with kind of setting up a big 1-hit KO kind of like Pokemon on the back end is that you have to have the ability to put real pressure on your opponent in the active spot while you're setting up the back. Right? Like, when you think about the best decks in the metagame that do set up a Pokemon, most of them are just sort of playing a low energy attack cost Mega Pokemon like Blaziken, like Sceptile, like Lucario, like Altaria. So they don't require a ton of setup, right? And you don't need to turbo energy to them. Mega Rayquaza is sort of similar. Like, it does have a 2 energy and its attack cost, but the payoff on the back end isn't as high unless we pile up a bunch of energies on this thing. So what would be the active in that scenario, right? Like, you have to be able to put pressure on your opponent in the active spot, you know, have a decent amount of HP, a decent amount of damage, like just pressuring your opponent's active to force them into their mega so that then you can then go into your mega and then win the game. And there's really not that many decks that do that. Think of things like Charizard Entei, right? Charizard Entei is kind of the only example of that because, again, you lead off with Entei, which is a Pokemon that can definitely provide pressure on your opponent, but the only reason you're able to utilize Entei and get Charizard set up is because you have things like Flame Patch and you have the Charmeleon. You have Ignite Charmeleon. So those are like really specific use cases. Maybe we do get something like that to Mega Rayquaza, but here's the thing. The card that is releasing alongside Mega Rayquaza that we know of right now, guys, is Dragonair. Okay, and the way that Dragonair works is that you can effectively double attach to Mega Rayquaza in a single turn, but Mega Rayquaza has to be in the active spot. So it's not really a card that we're able to just keep on the bench and pile up a bunch of energies onto. I just don't think that's the wave here. I don't think that's what we're intended to be doing. I think Mega Rayquaza is meant to get right into your face and just hit you and hit you and hit you from turn 2 onward for a really decent amount of damage. So let's break this all down. Let's say you go second, okay? Or let's just say you go I don't know. Let's just say you go first. It doesn't really matter, right? You can get Rayquaza into the active pretty easily because it has a retreat cost of 1. So if you didn't want it in the active, that's fine. Maybe you play it with baby Pokemon, but you're definitely going to be playing it with Dragonair, right? So the whole concept here is Rainbow Cave plus Dragonair plus Mega Rayquaza is going to allow you to come in on turn 2 and get 2, 3, and I think possibly 4 energies on your second turn with Mega Rayquaza. Actually, no, I think it's 3. I think it's going to be capped at 3. On to Mega Rayquaza on your second turn with Dragonair, with Rainbow Cave. Basically, you discard the energy on your first turn, you attach it. Next turn, you discard the energy, you attach it. That's 2, and then you get Dragonair. That's 3. No, technically, if you get double Dragonair and 2 turns of Rainbow Cave, that's 4 energies. Right? So that's a combo that's like kind of hard to do, but it's going to happen more than you think, right? We have double Copycat, we have double Research, we have double Pokeball, we have a bunch of stage 1 Pokemon support in the game. So it's going to be fairly easy to get the Dragonairs out and to retreat and just kind of go into Rayquaza and then set it up with Dragonair. But again, the concept to me is that you go into Mega Rayquaza, and then you just hit turn 2. It's a basic Pokemon. There's no evolutions needed. There's no weakness, 1 retreat cost. You just go into Mega Rayquaza, and you hit on turn 2, whether that's 100 damage or 150 damage or 200 damage. All of that is possible on your second turn. But then on the following turn, you just bring double energies back from your discard pile with your Dragonairs, and then you just hit for 150. And that's, to me, what Mega Rayquaza is. It's 150, 150, 150 every single turn on a basic, no weakness, 180 HP Dragon-type Pokemon. That's, to me, how we're playing this. So you're playing Dragonair, you're playing Rainbow Cave, and then you're playing Research, Copycat, Pokeball, and then whatever other cards you want to slot in your deck that are going to buff this. Maybe things like Lucky Ice Pop, maybe things like Red, maybe things like Field Blower or Cyrus or Sabrina. This is a card that's going to get right into your face and just sort of overwhelm you with that 100 to 150 damage attack every single turn. And trust me, like if you don't have the time to set up or get your board state going, you're not going to be able to beat a 150 damage Mega Rayquaza attack every turn starting from their second turn onward. So that's, to me, going to be the concept here for Mega Rayquaza. Now, the downside here is that maybe you don't get your Dragonairs out on your second turn, so you don't get this attack off, but you're going to be able to attack anyway, unless you go first. Like, the only way you're not attacking turn 2 with Mega Rayquaza is if you go first and you don't get a Dragonair out. Like, which is just not that likely. You know what I mean? I guess you also need Rainbow Cave. So there's going to be some scenarios where you don't get to attack on turn 2. But the way that the deck works is that you make up that damage on the following turn, right? So if you don't get the turn 2 attack off, that just means turn 3 you attack for 200 damage. You know what I mean? So this is a card that's going to be extremely aggressive and very overwhelming to certain decks that are just not able to kind of set up their board in time. This is a card, to me, that's very strong, guys. And again, starting planes, Giant Cape, if you really wanted to bring this thing up to 220. However, you are playing Rainbow Cave, so you're not playing starting planes, but you can just Giant Cape, go to 200 HP. You can play Rocky Helmet on this thing. Lots of different potential. You can play a Small Balloon if you wanted to have the retreat pivoting. To me, that's the concept here. Mega Rayquaza, Dragonair, in your face, 150, 150, 150. How do I win? How do I beat this? How am I going to get set up when this guy's 1 at KOing my Suicune EX on turn 2? It's going to be a lot better than you guys think. I think so, but maybe not. I mean, again, we're going to have to just wait and see. There's a lot of strong decks in the game. And at the end of the day, we just don't know. It's all kind of my estimation, my my hypothesis, my theory crafting. But I'm going to give you guys a bunch of examples in the upcoming days. So tomorrow, I'll give you my best decks for rank to wrap up this week. Monday, we'll do our meta report from the Invitational tournament this weekend, which, by the way, if you have qualified, go and play and register. It's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday are going to be days leading up to the set where we will be basically making like a preemptive deck video and kind of theory crafting before we get in here. And maybe the set gets leaked early. But before we wrap up this video, there is some additional information, right? So I want to talk about this, which is the new promo mega card that was announced. And this is Mega Houndoom, which is not a bad card at all. So for 3 fire energies, it does Grimhound Flare, 190 HP. We don't know the retreat cost. And it's weak to water. 190 HP. So for 3 fire energies, we have Grimhound Flare. This is a promo card, by the way. And technically, mega promos are oftentimes not that good. But Mega Houndoom is here. Now, this is really interesting to me because this actually doesn't seem that bad. This is going to be a Victini partner. So we have kind of a new Victini coin flip fire deck partner here. And this card does not seem very bad to me at all. 3 coin flips, 80 for each heads is what this does. So, with Victini, you're able to reflip those coins. All right, and there's tons of ways to accelerate fire energies onto Mega Houndoom, so it's going to be quite easy. We also have Elegant Cape, so you can go to 220 HP on Mega Houndoom. You can turbo fire to it, and then you can flip coins twice. You can flip 3 coins 2 different times, and pretty often get at least 2 heads, right? It's going to be like more often than not that you're going to be getting 2, sometimes 3. 3 heads means 240 damage. This card is not bad. This might be the best promo mega we've ever had. I say that with somewhat confidence. Fire is pretty decent right now. I don't know if this is going to be better. I don't know if Houndoom Victini is going to be better than Blaziken. I don't know if it's going to be better than Charizard, but this is not terrible. It's not at all. Yes, it is a coin flip deck, so people will probably shy away from it, but you could play Magby to generate fighter energies. You could play Entei. You could play Flame Patch. You could play Ignite, Charmeleon. Fire has no shortage of ways to generate fire energy. So this is a deck that's going to be pretty terrifying. Turn 2, 3 coin flips, 240 HP is crazy. That's a lot of damage. But most of the time, you're going to be hitting for 80 or 160, which really isn't that bad. 160 is a really good number. So this card is not bad. Do not sleep on this in Victini. It's going to be kind of dangerous. This might be... I honestly feel like this will be better than Superior and Heracross, which is kind of the fringe promo mega deck that's seeing play in the metagame right now. I think Mega Houndoom has a lot of potential. I'm not going to lie. This, to me, is certainly not a bad card. What do you guys think of Houndoom, Mega Houndoom? Comment down below. Let me know. But anyway, before we get out of here, I want to talk a little bit more about the update that's coming because there are some new features getting added alongside the new cards. So in mid-August, there will be the Mega Houndoom drop event and a Pachirisu Wonder Pick event. The Deluxe Pack EX set will also return from mid-August to late August. Now, this is interesting. So this to me means that we're not going to be getting a B-Series Deluxe yet, at least. Hopefully we don't. I don't want for us to go 2 months without a new set. But anyway, Deluxe Pack is coming up. This is allow you to kind of grind your Shine Dust really effectively, which is nice. We're also getting this new Pachirisu card, which I can see right here. So Pachirisu, 70 damage or 70 HP, single energy attack cost, Crackling Snap, 30 damage. Discard the top card of your deck, and if that card is an item, you do 20 more damage. So that's interesting, I guess. I don't know how I feel about that. But anyway, next up, players will now be able to share decks with each other using codes. This is a pretty big deal. We might try to integrate this into the channel if possible. I don't know if Limitless will be able to do this, but for live streams and things like that, this will be pretty good. So basically, when you go to your deck and you're viewing your deck, you can actually display a code for it, which means that your audience or you guys or your friends, whoever it is, will be able to bring your phone over and then scan the code and then just immediately build that deck list without having to manually do it, which is a pretty big deal. I don't know if I'm going to be able to incorporate these codes into the YouTube videos. I would like to. That way you could just pull your phone up to the screen and just copy the deck immediately. That would be really nice. But I don't know because we pull up decks on Limitless, and I don't know if there's going to be access to the code on Limitless. We'll have to see. But this is how it'll work, right? Share with 2D pattern code, ask another player to tap build/scan code, and then you can scan that barcode, and then it'll automatically build the deck, which is pretty cool. I actually really like that. I think that's a really, really good feature. Additionally, if certain conditions are met, which we don't know what those conditions are yet, however, again, this is crazy news. If certain conditions are going to be met after this new update, when opening a booster pack, the next pack from the same set will include a guaranteed 4-star or higher. No further details have been revealed yet, but to me this seems like bad luck protection to a degree. So maybe if like you open like a certain amount of packs and you don't get a 4-star or rarer, then you're guaranteed a 4-star. We don't know what the condition is yet that will guarantee that 4-star rarity or higher card, but they have or will be implementing something in the game to give you pull rate protection, which to me is a really, really big deal. That to me is something that I'm really interested in, and something that I think could be a really, really big change for people that really just get unlucky when opening packs, because it does happen. Sometimes you open 10, 15 packs and you just get all, non-high rarity cards. So something like that could be really, really big to Pokemon Pocket. We don't have all of the news on that yet, but it is a really, really big deal. Could be a great change. So the barcode scanning and the pack protection here is going to be a really, really big deal, and I'm really excited about that. And that's basically it for the update, guys. That's all of the news that we have so far. You're going to want to stay tuned because we will be covering this set a ton. We're going to be doing a lot here. And we have some really important news as well that will be coinciding with the release of B4, and we will be talking about that here on the channel in the upcoming days. But comment down below. Let me know what you guys think of these new cards. What are your opinions? What do you think is going to be strong? What do you not think is going to be strong? What's overrated? What's underrated? Again, keep in mind that we only have such a tiny, tiny piece of the set, and the full set will be releasing later on. So we're just going to have to wait and see. I'm just so excited. I'm so excited to see what the set ends up being. I think it's going to be a really big deal. The meta is going to shake up a ton, and hopefully a lot of players come back into the game, because honestly, I think this will be a really fun time to play, and I'm really, really excited. Gen 3 is one of the better generations. Gallade, Metagross, Rayquaza, all really, really cool stuff, honestly. So there you go, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you guys next time. Peace out. Have a good one. And yeah. Bye.